Hi, Tim Ard here. ForestApps.com and Along the Forest Apps Road. A little while ago, I posted a video talking about struck-bys. And that's incidents that take place with widowmakers coming out of the tree, trees going the wrong way, spring poles, those types of things. The other thing that I had was a story from David Breeden. And this story was about David's situation with a limb that came back and hit him just a month or two ago. And he has helped him putting together a little bit of a story about what took place with him. And it's quite interesting to really see what David has gone through and what he has picked up from the standpoint of how a helmet can change your life, and one that if you don't have it, it may really change your life. But I had a question out, and I asked a lot of people if they could send in some different stories, and I had David from David N23 Skidoo. He has a YouTube site. Check it out. David is very safety conscious and has been training chainsaw operators. He had a lot of background in forestry and forestry education, and met him years ago. And David has a little channel that does very well, and he put together some things from his recall and memory from over the past few years of struck by situations. And so I just wanted to put in some of those and kind of discuss some of those things as we kind of play through them. So he did a nice little video here. We'll take a look at it.
None of us were trained on how to deal with spring poles back then. And I don't know if he cut it high or low, but he cut it on the tension side. And that thing popped up, hit him right in the face. Busted his glasses, blacked his eyes, and knocked him out for a while. He didn't know how long he was out, but it actually knocked him out. He came in, he was bloody and lost his glasses. He couldn't see at all to find his. Anyway, that was a good lesson. And I take spring poles very seriously. A story about a good friend of mine
David's story here about a friend of his
many
that
years ago
ended up with a struck by injury.
This incident. Anyway, you'll see in the picture, that's me out on a pond on a very cold January day cutting firewood. Most of the time he would just do a match cut. He'd cut on one side of the tree and cut on the other side. This first one is a nice black oak pole, really nice tree.
Barber chairs are a major cause of struck bys. People don't realize when these things split, it can be a big tree, it can be a smaller tree. They come up and back very quickly, and so it's something that strikes a lot of people. Even the smaller ones that you'll see that David has here has quite a lot of potential for injury.
And again, they didn't make a face on it.
I know of 3 stories that I tell a lot with some DOT workers that were just cutting 7-inch or less diameter pine trees after storms and ended up with the barber chairing and hitting in the jaw and ended up cracking some ribs. So there's different issues that can happen with these barber chair situations.
Kinds of barber chairs all
so you can listen to some of David's story here.
Cut on the other, not get it down, and leave a barber chair up. I got tired of seeing this guy. And this one, this is an interesting barber chair. One of my forestry. He decided he was going to go into the logging business when he wasn't busy with his row crops. And I offered to teach him how to drop a tree properly. He said, "Oh no." He said, "This guy taught me how to cut a tree down." And again, it was cut on one side, do a match cut on the other. And he would leave these things in his woods. Here, the hickory tree he tried to cut down, and he got smashed in the head by one of these. It popped up and knocked him silly, busted his hard hat, but his hard hat did keep it from busting his head. And we'll go to the next one. And this was done by a doctor. And if you look at wildlife stuff on the internet, you'll see there are people out there who promote what they call hinge cutting. What these guys say, these are not professional forestry people at all. Hinge cutting, they cut a tree from one side until it falls over. And the reason they justify this, they say, well, that keeps the top of the tree connected to the roots. It keeps it alive, and that provides browse for the deer. Well, they've also eliminated any mass that that tree would produce, and it's a dangerous cutting practice. Young white oaks, large saplings, like 4 and 6 inch white oaks, not quite poles. But anyway, on this one, I'm going to scoot ahead to the next photo here too. This doctor was wanting, his primary goal was having deer, and he was making spring poles all over his woods doing this. I think he did one of these and it smashed him in the face. It busted his nose, blacked his eyes. Didn't hurt him too bad. If you look at this stump, you'll see on the left side of that stump, you can see a little pie cut laying on the ground. And that was the notch taken out on that side of the stump. And you could look at the stump and see where that notch was taken out. He cut that out, but then instead of making a hinge and wedging the tree over, he just cut back from there. When he got back to that ledge on the stump, that tree split and broke over to the right on that spring pole because it ran into other trees. And then I could see where the log had been. In fact, you can see wood on the far right. You can see where that log had been severed from the crown. And so that, so the log rotated around about 90 degrees or more before it hit the ground. And I said it fell here. You can see where the guy bucked it up after it was on the ground. He had to cut the spring pole loose off of it. Anyway, the game warden said to me, "Well, that's what the guy said. That's what the dead guy's brother said." I said, "What dead guy?" He said, "Well, the logger got killed here. The guy that cut this was dead." And what happened when this thing twisted around, the guy who cut it tried to get away.
So many of these struck by injuries end up in fatalities. Many of them end up with pretty serious injuries. And as I had mentioned in an earlier video, that struck bys is the #1 injury and fatality causer when it comes to chainsaw operation and logging, in tree care, as well as in firewood. So we have to think about the potential for these things and make sure that we have them in our planning process. So check out David's channel, look at that and see, if there's anything you can pick up from him. And so this is David's YouTube site, David N23 Skidoo. And he has all kinds of things on there, some neat old engine videos that he's done, tractor videos, and also quite a lot on hunting, and then a lot on forestry. So it's a pretty neat site to look over. But anyway, David put together some real life lessons, and you can look at the total video on his site. And I had one story about a fairly young fellow who over in Alabama that had basically had a little tree service, and more or less he had a limb come and caught him in the head, and he had some pretty serious injuries to his head. But I just wanted to give a little update. He's doing better, and he's going to make it. He's going to pull through. But his wife sent me a message and said definitely his Christmas present this year is going to be a hard hat. They've agreed upon he needs to have a little bit as far as personal protective gear added to his planning and technique schedule. And please also subscribe as we work with different situations and all in our channel. So any other struck by situations that you might know of or have, please send them in, and we will try to make sure that we get them listed and let people know about how these things can be dangerous, and maybe they can plan around them. Check out our other videos. Make sure you subscribe, share with other friends, and leave comments. Let us know what you think. Have a great one. and I wish you good sawing